not want to be a politician.
Okay.
Glad we settled that one then.
Yes.
That's clear, isn't it? That's not indecisive,
That's
is it?
definitely
No,
not.
no.
Good.
By the way, you can now listen to a live audio version of Newsnight, along with all of the BBC's election coverage on Election 24. That's the stream, and it's on BBC Sound. So if you don't want to see our faces, you can just listen to our voices. Just head to the Sounds app and find the stream. It's between 5 Live Sports Extra and 6 Music. I've done it. It's really easy. It sounds more complicated than I have made it sound. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Caldwell. Thanks for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. We're going to hear now more from Ron Warmington, who gave evidence to the Post Office inquiry today, along with his colleague Ian Henderson. Both worked for the independent forensic accountant Second Sight, and that firm played a key role in exposing flaws in the Post Office's Horizon IT computer system, which, as you know, led to the wrongful prosecutions of sub-postmasters. Both men were portrayed as one character in ITV's Mr. Bates versus the Post Office.
I have spent a lot of the past 12 months...
Yes, come on, Bob.
Requesting...
Second Sight requested.
Unfortunately, those emails that were provided were for the wrong year.
Well, Ron Warmington is alongside Joe Swinson. You have met each other for the first time this evening. Joe Swinson was obviously the Post Office Minister between 2012 and 2015 in the coalition government when your report for Second Sight, which the Post Office had hired you to come up with to see if there were problems with Horizon, came out. First of all, Mr. Warmington, tell our audience what you told the public inquiry today about when you realised things were going wrong.
We first realised things were going wrong on the prosecution front almost immediately, right away, by September, no later than September 2012. And when I say that, I've got to qualify it by saying we made it abundantly clear to everybody that we're accountants. My colleagues and I are forensic accountants, fraud investigators, not lawyers. And therefore, any suspicions we had as to the inadequacies of evidence and the failure to disclose evidence that might support the defendants was an opinion of accountants, not lawyers.
Sure.
And therefore, one of the first things we did was to say, don't take our word for it. Go check with one of the top firms of criminal law firms. I suggested some names. The General Counsel said, I will go to I better not name them, the firm that we've always used as our go-to prosecution firm. And I said, you must be nuts. You can't possibly be serious about doing that. Why would you go to the firm that's got you into this mess to mark their own homework? Go to one of the top firms. I named one or two. And the response was, we can't do that because the board won't tolerate that cost.
OK. So how did the Post Office treat you? How did Paula Vennells treat you when you were getting to the truth?
Well, initially, it had been called me gullible. Having spoken to the very top brass, chairman and chief exec, and I'd said, don't hire my firm if you want a whitewash or unless you want to help me get to the truth. I'm getting too old. I don't need the work. I'll reject this job unless you agree to join us in an unrestricted search for the truth, regardless of the consequences. I was reassured on that front, absolutely reassured. We took on the job. But as soon as we started to find stuff, nasty evidence of awful prosecution practices, sitting on top of really poor investigation processes that didn't seek the underlying root causes of problems, but simply were focused on getting the money back and keeping the brand safe and keeping the reputation of the system safe. As soon as we started to see that and say something about it, particularly when the General Counsel changed, a new one came in, the tide turned massively. So much so that I'm not a quitter, but pretty soon afterwards, I said to my team, I've had enough of this. This isn't what we agreed to do. I'm pulling stumps. I'm going to pull the team out.
OK. Joe Swinson, you are yet to give evidence. Can I ask you, did Paula Vennells lie to you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What did she say to you that is a lie?
So, obviously, during the unfolding of everything that happened in my time as minister, I was asking lots of questions and probing, seeking assurances, being told about the investigations that they had undertaken into all of the prosecutions that had happened. And she told me in categorical terms that no evidence had been unturned that had shown any of those prosecutions were unsafe in any way, and that if anything did become discovered in the process of their investigations that would ever give any potential that any conviction might be unsafe, they had an immediate legal duty to disclose it, and that they were complying with that duty very seriously. And that, I took that as a very categorical assurance to my face, in writing also in a letter that I published in Parliament in March 2015. And we now know from the subsequent court cases that that was absolutely not true. They had not been complying with their disclosure duty as they should have done.
And you looked at Second Sight's interim report in 2013 and gave this statement to the House of Commons. Let's just have a quick look at this clip.
Post Office was proactive in identifying these problems and rectifying those problems so that no sub-postmaster was out of pocket. That is an entirely separate issue from the issues that were actually looked at in the report that had been raised through the JFSA and through Second Sight. And indeed, that has found there are not any system-wide issues or indeed any software issues as such.
Ron Warmington, what do you want to ask Jo Swinson from her time as Post Office Minister?
Well, first point, Jo, I'm deeply sympathetic with the situation you found yourself in. You weren't the only one to be fooled. And on the point about being lied to, I very rarely call anybody a liar. The only way that what you were told could be the truth in the mind of the person that was telling it is if she had listened to what we said, where we made it very clear there was a problem, and then that had been blasted right out of her mind by what she must have regarded as a superior input, for example, from top lawyers and so on. I can only assume, to be fair to her, that's what she thought. But in terms of what I'd ask Jo, very simply, is, I've been an investigator for, I'm the oldest guy on this sofa, so I've been an investigator for many, many decades, and dealt with conflict, really serious conflict. Normally, when an investigation report is prepared, and the subject of the investigation, in this case they were also paying the piper, the subject of the investigation comes out with a rebuttal report which says these Second Sight guys are talking absolute nonsense. Not a single thing they've said is right or properly evidenced. Normally what would happen is I would get called in by the board, or in this case the civil servants, or by you, and say, I'm going to give you a bollocking. Why have we spent all this money, it wasn't that much, but why have we spent all this money paying you to do a job which Post Office experts say is complete and utter tosh?
So why did that not happen?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Well, I mean, I think this is a